Nobody thought Sean Diddy Combs would sit quietly in his Brooklyn jail cell, counting down the days until his sentencing in October. But I'm also not sure anybody realized how many moves he still had in him. 3 by our count, in rising order of importance. Now, you know about Combs' latest attempt of many to get out of jail on bond, right? The terms are the same as he's offered many times before, to put his Miami mansion up as collateral. But the argument this time is different. The defense says other people convicted of the same crime that Combs was, transportation to engage in prostitution or the Mann Act, are routinely granted bail. They say it happens all the time. It's a felony, yes, but far less serious than the racketeering and sex trafficking counts that Combs was acquitted of. The prosecution had until today to respond, and ruling from the judge could come anytime. Diddy also wants his Mann Act convictions thrown out, or barring that, a whole new trial. And why? Team Combs says that he didn't make a dime off those infamous freak-offs. Moreover, nobody ever said that Combs himself had sex with those escorts who crossed state lines, nor did he himself arrange their transportation. At worst, the argument goes Diddy was a voyeur and thus entitled to the same First Amendment protection as the makers and watchers of porn. Stay tuned for the judge's ruling on that. We'll have to see how that goes. Finally, there's the biggest swing of all. TMZ now reporting that Combs' legal team is in touch with the White House over a potential presidential pardon. According to TMZ, the president is open to the idea, but he wants to see how Combs' bail motion first turns out. Reportedly, if Combs gets bail, a pardon decision can wait. And while we wait, I want to bring in one of the best legal strategists in the business and a longtime friend of the show. Mark Geragos is here. He's also the host of the podcast. He's got 2 Reasonable Doubt and 2 Angry Men. Mark, good to see you tonight.
Good to see you too, Laura.
All right. So, okay, let's talk about Trump for a second, because he's pardoned a string of celebrities. I'm just curious, what are Diddy's chances of joining that club? What do you think?
Well, I think that somebody like President Trump, given the fact that he's on video already saying in response to a question before the results of this trial, when it was being covered, that he was open to it, especially if he thought anybody was being treated unfair. I think if he has followed it since the results of the trial, the fact that Sean rolled the dice, facing mandatory life sentences and minimum sentences of anywhere from 10 to 15 years, was acquitted of all those and was nicked with the Mann Acts, as you said. There, as far as I know, as far as his defense team knows, at least from what they filed, there's nobody sitting in jail who's a John, a so-called John, who didn't have sex and is sitting in a federal prison. And, they detailed the fact that it was the White Slavery Act and that it's been used against prominent blacks over the last 100 years. And I think they make a very compelling argument. Full disclosure, my daughter is on the team, but full disclosure also, if you take you talked about taking a large swing. The government took the largest swing. They tried to keep him in prison for the rest of his life. They lost. They lost spectacularly because there was no defense. So at this point, the idea of them, and they haven't filed it yet, my understanding is they've got to file sometime in the next 2 hours. And I don't know what they're going to say in response to the bail. Basically, that he's a violent man and therefore he shouldn't be out of custody. There's probably 10,000 domestic abusers from 10 years ago who are out of custody and who were prosecuted on misdemeanors. So the idea of keeping him in custody on this case under this set of circumstances, I frankly think is ridiculous.
Well, we did see a lot of evidence in this trial. I saw you down there at the courthouse supporting your daughter, and we reported on it extensively, as you know. And we watched the receipts and all of that. And as you mentioned, I mean, just the Mann Act, that's what he's in jail for right now. But why do you think that Trump would wait for the judge to make a decision on bail before making his own decision, just being safe? I mean, they say timing is everything. And of course, we've seen Trump before. We may just have breaking news happen on this at any time, right?
Yeah, you never can predict these kinds of things. I mean, whether it's President Trump, whether it's Governor Newsom, who I'm kind of waiting on him to do some things with another client, whether it was President Biden with Hunter, whether it was President Clinton with other clients I've had. It's always you always feel like a kid who's waiting for Christmas in terms of when or if it's going to happen. So I don't make any predictions on that because it's like a not guilty. A presidential pardon is one of the only two things in the criminal law that can't be appealed. So it's very hard and very difficult to predict it. And I'll just sit and wait. I'm hoping the judge does what the defense is urging and releases him on bail. $50 million bail for something that, you know, I could run up the street here to the Burbank airport tomorrow afternoon on a Friday afternoon, and there'd probably be 500 people getting on a plane to go to Vegas. They're actually going to go have sex in Vegas and cross state lines. So, right. I mean, when you take a look at what's going on here, it really is a stretch that this is a federal crime and that he's sitting in custody.
Right. You know, and many people have asked, Mark, and I've got to ask you, you know, if Trump were to pardon Diddy, what does that really look like? Because would we see him walk free that very day? How quick could that happen?
Absolutely. I mean, as soon as they process them out. I mean, I've had clients who have either had their sentence commuted or pardoned, and it's exactly what happens. And so it could happen in an instant. And President Trump has done it on several occasions. Trump 2, Trump 1 as well. I remember the sheriff in Arizona who, pending sentencing, he, I believe, on a contempt charge, Joe Arpaio, he pardoned him or commuted his sentence. And right. So there are many instances of it. There are many, many instances. And, you know, the pardon power is something that a president, as I said, it's unappealable, and it's something a president should use. They've got the right to do it, and if they think somebody's been treated unfairly, they should do it.
Yeah, it certainly would be a big headline, that's for sure. And what about this bail petition? Because we went through this before the first time. That $50 million mansion has been offered up as collateral before. But why not up the amount and say, look, we'll just give you a lot more. We'll give you more of his homes. We'll give you more money. He clearly, obviously, has been fighting to get out. So why not offer more?
Well, you know, he almost, in reality, he did offer more. He rolled the dice on a RICO. I mean, that was basically his entire net worth. That was by a multiple of 50. So he rolled the dice. The government lost. You know, take your marbles and go home. I mean, enough is enough. You got humiliated, and you were well over your skis. It was a total overreach. They didn't call a single witness. I mean, talk about a humiliation. Enough. Stop. Don't be a sore loser. Just admit that you blew it and let him out.
All right. Well, we're waiting on pins and needles, not like you for Christmas, but, you know, we're waiting to see what happens next.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.